We had over 500 people. The doors opened at 9. We had 500 people getting there as early as 6 or 7 in the morning to sign their kids up for this program. During the course of those several hours, we had 2,000 families, all low-income families, come through the door trying to get their kid in a quality school. Waiting patiently, being told they needed more information. Some of these families and parents had never done anything like this. They went back home to get copies of their electric bill to prove residency and came back. Some of them had to take 2 or 3 bus transfers to come back to the registration site. And we had a successful year where we had over 700 kids that qualified. This year we're going to double that because the demand is what it is. People want the best for their children. So when thinking about Dr. Friedman, even in the rarefied air that he and Professor Levine travel in, it is clear that he understood the notion of freedom in America better than most. Even back in 1955, when he wrote that now renowned paper. He understood that freedom shouldn't be shackled by us limiting the exposure and the educational options that parents have for their children. He actually understood the essence of what education really means, that education is about choices. It's about choices for parents. It's about choices for children. He understood that in order for our country to remain strong and for us to remain competitive, for us to continue to have the intellectual firepower necessary to be what we like to be in terms of world leaders, that we have to open up education beyond the government bureaucracy that's been thrown in front of us. He understood and appreciated this idea that our future really does lie in how we handle and treat our young and how we educate them. And anything short of that is shameful on us. So I tell people all the time that this is not a Republican or Democratic issue. It's not a socioeconomic issue, in stark terms. The results have socioeconomic impact. It's not a racial issue. It is an American issue because it does come down to the fortitude and sustenance of the democracy we love. And that's why I continue to fight for this issue. I continue to fight for these children, and I continue to fight so parents can be empowered to choose for themselves. It makes absolutely no sense for the government to say, your child needs to go here to school, even though we know this school is failing. So with that, I thank you all very much, and I look forward to taking some questions as the lunch continues. Thank you.
I wanted to run around the block a couple of times.
Thank you.
What kind of Ornlocking do you have with NEA and like-minded groups?
Yeah, well, they know me.
They should.
Real quick funny story. Rex loves stories like this. My good friend Howard Fuller, who's landmark mentor and leader in the parental choice movement, he was superintendent of schools in Milwaukee when he started the first voucher program and caught a lot of heat. He called me one day, Rex, and he said, Kevin, they're having this school choice thing. They're trying to get it going in Portland, Oregon. Do you mind going? Because I can't make it. I said, sure, I'll go speak. Let me check my schedule. So, but he didn't tell me the whole story. So I get on the airplane, go to Portland, and at the airport I see these folks sort of looking at me. It's about 4 or 5 of them. And then I do a radio thing, and they're outside the station. And then when they have a press conference at school, and they're there, and they're writing notes. And so finally, in the evening when I speak, I said, I'm a little unnerved. These people are like, they're following me around. And so I asked the people, I said, well, who are these? Oh, these are the NEA folks. They knew you were in town. And so I called Howard. I said, Howard, these people following me around? Yeah, I knew they were going to be there. So I didn't want to go. I didn't want to deal with them. I said, well, Thanks for letting me know, you know. But no, they don't even debate me anymore. Because, you know, I have this view of what we should do that is frankly pure. I'm not holier than thou, but it's pure in this way. See, the NEA will talk about, you know, we've got to do this for teachers. They talk about these adult issues. This is the way we've always done it. What are the results? Blah, blah, blah. Well, my purest view of how we educate children is if the proposal, the approach will help a child or group of children learn, I'm for it. If it doesn't, I'm against it. So that means by definition, all these family schools, I'm against it. That means by definition, all these schools that work, I'm for it. And see, I think that that's the way we should look at education. It is that precious a commodity in this country. We should not put filters or layers on how we evaluate what's best for children. If it's best for children, we should support it. And we should have the courage to stand up. And so, you know, when I deal with the union folks, I'm very dismissive of the partisanship and the simplistic approach that they take to self-preservation, because that's what it's about. I have debated NEA folks for an hour and not have one of them during that hour mention children during the whole time. And it works like magic. At the end, during the final remarks, I said, you know what, I'd have far more respect for what they're saying if they had mentioned children once. And they never do. Because their myopic view is on self-preservation and special interests that has nothing to do with the outputs for kids. And I think that's the most important thing about education. What's best for kids? So, to answer your question, yeah, I know the NEA well.
Kevin, could you explain charter schools? What are some of the specific things that they do to get the really good results? What's the secret sauce of charter schools?
Well, let me tell you the real secret sauce, and that's an excellent question. Charter schools are public schools, but the essence of the charter school relationship is that it is a contract with the authorizer or the public entity that grants the charter. And you file an application where you lay out your goals and timetables, your financial management system, your curriculum, and your goals and timetables in terms of student achievement, how your curriculum is going to be designed, and you have, in most places, a five years in order to fulfill that charter or meet those goals. And each year, there's an audit, there's a review of how you're doing and the like. But the real difference between charter schools and traditional schools are work rules. Because the union in all these school districts has work rules, which are the antithesis of good education and teaching practices. Charter schools, for the most part, don't have those work rules. In other words, work rules that mandate, like in DC, when I was chair of the education committee and the superintendent came to me in America complaining because the teachers union insisted on keeping a clause in the contract mandating that all teachers leave the premises by 3:15. And they couldn't stay even if they wanted to. So you had these young, energetic teachers that wanted to help with after-school programs, and the principal said, you've got to leave the building, it's 3:16, you're already late. And why did they do that? Because the union contract says there's a certain number of work rules, and if you go beyond that, and you know, look, Mike Podgorski does this better than I ever could in terms of laying out, you know, the ridiculous nature of the work rules. Work rules that allow for teachers that everyone knows are bad teachers to still be on the payroll. Like in New York, and Joe Klein, it took me over there, they have a rubber room. All jurisdictions have some semblance of that. A rubber room in which teachers who are deemed to be unfit to be around children, but they're still on the payroll, and the union rules say they can't be fired. They're in the process of being evaluated. They report to work at 9 and leave at 3, and they haven't seen a child because the system doesn't want them near the children, but they're getting paid by the system. They say in New York, $80 million goes to those teachers who are deemed unfit to be around children and they can't be fired. See, I think that we need to be honest about where we are with these work rules. Thank goodness our new chancellor in DC, Michelle Rhee, she's laid it out there. I was talking to Travis about this earlier. You know, she's a fireball and the union hates her probably worse than me, which is, but